Brian Andrews, a country singer who hadn't been on most people's radars, suddenly became the center of a massive online conversation. Last week, he posted what he called a crash out on Instagram and TikTok, a series of videos where he didn't hold back at all. In his videos, Andrews directly challenged self-proclaimed Christian supporters of Trump and ICE, questioning how anyone could claim to follow their faith while cheering on policies that separate families and punish people for simply trying to survive. His words were blunt, intense, and deeply personal. "You are not Christian," he said, his voice rising with emotion. "You use Christianity as a shield to hide behind when you need to justify the hate that you've scolded into this world." He wasn't just speaking hypothetically, he was pointing to real policies and real pain, including children being dragged out of their homes in the middle of the night and families being torn apart. Andrews' anger was palpable, but so was his sadness. He described feeling sick to be lumped in with supporters who identify with his country and faith, but act in ways that contradict both. His honesty struck a nerve, and it didn't take long for his words to go viral. Within hours, the clips racked up hundreds of thousands of views across multiple platforms. People were sharing them, discussing them, and debating them in comment sections that stretched on for pages. What made this moment even more powerful was how Andrews tied it to his music. While promoting his new single, The Older I Get, he used his platform to mix artistry with activism, proving that country music could still carry a voice of conscience. Fans immediately noticed the authenticity in his message. This wasn't a calculated PR move. It was a genuine outpouring of frustration, moral outrage, and empathy. And as the videos spread, the reactions started pouring in, some supportive, some critical, but all impossible to ignore. And the buzz didn't stop at social media. Celebrities, music fans, and casual observers jumped into the conversation. People were inspired, shocked, and, in many cases, fired up. The virality wasn't just about his words. It was about timing, emotion, and courage. Andrews had tapped into something bigger, a growing frustration with how policies and public opinion collide with faith, morality, and human decency. And while the world watched, the debate only intensified. Supporters called him brave, critics called him naive, and everyone in between had an opinion. But what happened next would take the story even further, shocking fans and critics alike. The anger and frustration Andrews expressed didn't happen in a vacuum. Behind his viral rant lies the broader context of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, and the policies it enforces. In recent years, ICE has faced mounting scrutiny for aggressive immigration raids across the country. Reports of children being pulled from their homes in the middle of the night, families being separated without warning, and even entire apartment buildings being targeted sparked outrage nationwide. While some see these actions as enforcement of the law, others view them as deeply inhumane, and it's exactly this tension that Andrews was confronting. Earlier this month, for example, residents in a Chicago apartment building described being woken by the sound of helicopters and officers entering homes, dragging children into the streets while families watched in terror. In Los Angeles, a recent Supreme Court decision effectively gave ICE agents broader powers, allowing them to act with fewer constraints, a move critics say opens the door to racial profiling. These aren't abstract policies for Andrews. They're real human stories, stories of fear, loss, and the quiet suffering of people simply trying to build a life in a country they hoped would welcome them. It's this human cost that drove Andrews' raw emotion. He didn't just want to make a political point. He wanted to wake people up to the human consequences behind headlines and sound bites. Have we really become this numb to treating human beings like this? He asked in one clip, his voice heavy with disbelief and frustration. By tying the abstract concept of immigration policy to tangible, heartbreaking examples, he made the issue impossible to ignore. And yet, the timing couldn't have been more striking. Andrews posted his videos alongside the release of his new single, The Older I Get, blending his music career with his activism. This strategy amplified the reach of his message, ensuring that both fans and casual viewers were confronted with his perspective. But while many applauded his courage, others saw it as controversial, sparking intense debate across social media. The conversation didn't just stay online. News outlets began covering his rant. Celebrities commented, and thousands of strangers weighed in, defending or condemning his message. It was no longer just a singer venting. It was a cultural flashpoint. And as the reactions kept rolling in, it became clear that Andrews had tapped into a deeper conversation about faith, morality, and the choices people make when laws collide with empathy. But that wasn't the end. As his message spread, it sparked reactions that were as diverse as they were passionate, turning a personal rant into a viral movement. The next wave of responses would make headlines and surprise even his most devoted fans. Once Brian Andrews' videos went viral, the online world erupted. Social media lit up with reactions from fans, critics, and even celebrities, turning what started as a personal rant into a full-blown conversation. Support poured in almost immediately. Comments flooded Instagram and TikTok, praising Andrews for his honesty and courage. One user wrote, "This is the energy, compassion, and anger we all need right now," while another declared, "Country music finally finding its protest voice again. Been a long road since Johnny Cash." Even Hollywood voices joined the discussion. Actor Mark Ruffalo shared his admiration, saying Andrews crushed the lies of this administration and the anti-Christian movement that supports it, while also praising his music as a continuation of the long tradition of artists speaking truth through art. Other celebrities highlighted the moral clarity in his message, showing that Andrews' reach had jumped far beyond the country music scene. Of course, the reactions weren't all positive. Critics questioned both his political stance and his approach, arguing that he was overstepping as a musician or misunderstanding the complexities of immigration laws. Some suggested that his statements oversimplified a difficult topic. Others, however, admitted that even if they disagreed, they respected his willingness to speak openly, even knowing it would provoke strong reactions. What made this wave of responses so striking was the intensity and variety. Some followers were inspired to reflect on their own beliefs. Others were shocked, angered, or confused. It wasn't just a debate. It became a mirror reflecting the polarized landscape of online discourse today. Through every like, comment, and share, Andrews' message reached far more people than any single post could normally achieve. And as the conversation continued, it became clear that his words had opened a larger dialogue about faith, morality, and the human cost of policy. Supporters were rallying behind him, critics were firing back, and the momentum kept building, making it impossible for anyone scrolling past to ignore. But the story didn't stop at online reactions. What happened next started to blend the worlds of music, activism, and public influence in ways few could have anticipated. The virality of Brian Andrews' videos quickly revealed a deep divide among viewers. On one side, fans celebrated his honesty, calling him brave and refreshing in a world where many artists shy away from controversial topics. Comments praised his courage to challenge the hypocrisy he saw, and many shared how his words resonated with their own frustrations about morality, faith, and justice. One fan wrote, "You are leading the way. We need more rage like this from men." While another declared, "Finally, someone in country music speaking truth." On the other side, critics were quick to respond. Some argued that Andrews was oversimplifying complex immigration laws, or that he was unfairly targeting people who identify as Christian but support Trump's policies. Others questioned whether a musician should be making political statements at all. Comments ranged from disagreement with his message to outright mockery, with some suggesting he had no right to lecture the public. The debates spilled across platforms, turning his viral rant into a battlefield of clashing perspectives. What made this divide so compelling wasn't just the opinions themselves, but the intensity of the emotions behind them. Supporters felt inspired, validated, and even energized, while critics expressed anger, disbelief, or frustration at being challenged. Social media became a stage for this clash, with thousands weighing in, debating morality, faith, and responsibility. The conversation wasn't just about one singer. It became about the larger question of how society responds when individuals speak out against perceived injustices. Andrews himself seemed to anticipate this divide. He didn't aim to please everyone. Instead, he spoke from his conscience, addressing the injustices he saw firsthand. By embracing the controversy rather than shying away, he transformed a personal opinion into a viral movement, sparking discussion that stretched far beyond the music community. But this was just the beginning. As the conversation grew, Andrews' music and activism began intersecting in ways that blurred the line between performance and protest, turning a country single into a platform for social commentary. What happened next would show just how powerful music can be when it carries a message people can't ignore. Brian Andrews didn't just rant. He turned his music into a megaphone for his message. While promoting his new single, The Older I Get, he blended artistry with activism, proving that country music can still carry a voice of conscience. For decades, the genre had leaned towards safe commercial hits, but Andrews tapped into a tradition that goes back to artists like Johnny Cash, who used their music to challenge injustice and speak to the struggles of ordinary people. Fans quickly drew the comparison, praising Andrews for bringing protest and moral commentary back into a space many thought had gone quiet. The power of his approach lay in authenticity. His anger, frustration, and empathy weren't manufactured. They were real. By combining his music with his social critique, he created a package that was both entertaining and thought-provoking. Every lyric, every note, and every word in his videos reinforced the message. Society cannot remain numb while human beings are treated unjustly. And while the viral posts spread, so did his music, reaching audiences who might never have paid attention to his songs before. The intersection of music and activism also sparked conversations about the role of artists in society. Should musicians stay neutral, or should they speak out? Andrews clearly chose the latter, and his example reignited a debate that goes beyond country music, touching on pop culture, morality, and civic responsibility. Fans celebrated this courage, while critics worried about the implications of musicians engaging so directly in political and social issues. But it wasn't just debate and discussion. His music became a rallying point. Fans shared the song alongside his videos, creating a movement that connected emotional storytelling, moral outrage, and real-world consequences. By the time his posts had fully circulated, Andrews had done more than go viral. He had sparked a conversation about the power of music, the responsibilities of artists, and the courage it takes to speak truth in a divided world. And yet, even with all this momentum, the story wasn't over. Andrews's emotional reflections hinted at a deeper, more personal struggle, showing that behind the viral moment was a man questioning the state of humanity itself. Behind the viral videos and viral debates, Brian Andrews revealed something more personal, an emotional reflection that resonated with viewers on a deeper level. In one of his posts, he asked a question that seemed simple but cut straight to the heart of the issue. Have we really become this numb to treating human beings like this? His voice carried exhaustion, frustration, and a touch of disbelief, as if he couldn't comprehend how society could watch suffering unfold and remain indifferent. Andrews spoke not just as a singer or a public figure, but as someone observing the world around him. The late-night videos of children separated from families, the news clips of aggressive immigration raids, and the countless stories of ordinary people caught in impossible situations. He challenged viewers to look beyond politics and labels, asking them to confront their own conscience. His words weren't angry for the sake of anger. They were a call for empathy, for awareness, and for action. What made this reflection so powerful was how relatable it felt. Many viewers commented that they too felt a sense of numbness or helplessness when confronted with injustice online. By voicing these feelings, Andrews tapped into a collective frustration that had been simmering beneath the surface. People weren't just watching a viral moment, they were seeing themselves reflected in it, questioning their own reactions and moral responsibilities. This section of his message also emphasized the human element behind policies and debates. Andrews reminded everyone that behind statistics and political arguments, there are real families, real children, and real lives at stake. His words encouraged viewers to pause, reflect, and consider what they might do differently in the face of injustice. And just as he left viewers with these questions, he hinted at what could come next: rumors, speculation, and growing attention that could either bolster his music career or challenge him in ways no one anticipated. The stakes were rising, and the story was far from over. As Brian Andrews' viral moment spread, speculation about what would come next began swirling online. Fans and commentators started wondering whether this bold stand could reshape his music career, or if it might create unexpected challenges. Rumors suggest that major media outlets and country music circles were suddenly paying attention, curious to see if Andrews could turn this viral outburst into lasting influence. Some posts hinted that labels might reach out, while others questioned whether taking such a public stance could alienate parts of his audience. Online, fans speculated about possible collaborations, suggesting that Andrews might follow in the footsteps of other socially conscious artists, using his platform not just for music, but for advocacy. "This could be the start of something big," one comment read, echoing a sentiment felt across TikTok and Instagram. Yet, critics countered, suggesting that his candid approach might limit opportunities in a genre often seen as politically conservative. Here, the tension became part of the story itself. Every new post, like, and share added to the uncertainty of what his next move would be. Importantly, none of these outcomes are confirmed. These are rumors, reports, and fan theories, but framing them this way keeps the story alive, creating curiosity without presenting speculation as fact. By highlighting the potential consequences, Andrews' moment became more than a viral rant. It became a story of risk, courage, and the unpredictable power of speaking out. And as these rumors and conversations continued to grow, it became clear that Andrews' message, and his music, had tapped into something larger, a cultural conversation about morality, faith, and human empathy. What happens next for him might surprise everyone, and it's this uncertainty that keeps viewers coming back, discussing, and sharing. Brian Andrews' viral crash out wasn't just a moment online, it was a spark that ignited conversations about morality, faith, and the human cost of policy. From his raw, unfiltered call-out of self-proclaimed Christian supporters of Trump and ICE to the polarized reactions flooding social media, he showed just how powerful one voice can be when it speaks from conscience rather than comfort. His music, activism, and emotional honesty combined to create a message that resonated far beyond the country music scene. Fans celebrated his courage and authenticity, while critics questioned his approach, but the conversation itself became part of the impact. Andrews reminded people that the human stories behind policies matter, that empathy is not optional, and that silence can sometimes feel like complicity. He challenged viewers to reflect on their own beliefs, their own reactions, and their own responsibilities in a world filled with injustice. And the story isn't over. Speculation about his career, collaborations, and influence continues to swirl, leaving viewers to wonder, will country music finally reclaim its protest voice? Can one viral moment spark lasting change? Andrews' message encourages reflection, discussion, and most importantly, empathy. Ultimately, this viral moment is more than a rant. It's a mirror, showing us what happens when music meets activism, courage confronts hypocrisy, and one person dares to speak truth in a world that too often looks the other way. And as viewers, we're left asking ourselves the same question Andrews posed. Have we really become numb to the suffering of others, or is it time to wake up?